All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, baseball fans of all ages, I am Beast Mikey. Now arrived on a train of thought. It's time for the first summer equinox edition of the Power Rankings. And there's no real NBA or NHL to talk about, I guess. I may put in some thoughts on the trades that went down over the last 48 hours, but we'll get into that. And we're also going to start, as always, with the Eurostar Zombie Tier. San Francisco, Devers' disaster continues, and it feels like a divorce is imminent between Rafi Devers and the Giants. Well, if anyone wants to take on the $200 million that he's going to have to get paid. And the base running decisions of Devers and the somewhat entitlement of Rafi Devers is not a good look, and it feels like it's getting to the Giants as a whole, as a lot of things are getting to the Giants as a whole, to be honest, and they are continuing to be really rough and really bad. And I think I should mention this before I go any further. The power rankings this week probably won't have as many changes as I would have expected, but we'll get into that as we go. San Francisco stays 30. Boston didn't trade Jaylen? Yeah, the Celtics didn't trade Jaylen Brown as of this recording. They did not win the Giannis sweepstakes, and I will get into that. And they are going to, I guess, stick with what they've got for now and try to move with that and rebound after blowing a 3-1 lead to the Sixers. I guess that happens. As for the Red Sox, ho-hum. You're still bad. You still do bad things. You don't score runs. You're decent at preventing them. And you had a kind of a mid-week. You did win 2 out of 3 in Seattle, which is fine. Unfortunately, you got swept by Toronto and lost the game to the Rockies yesterday. Not great stuff here. New York Mets, it's a triple. Yeah, there was a lot of discourse amongst Mets fans that the Bryce Harper triple in the 5th inning of Saturday's beatdown should have been a double and a runner advancing on a throw. When in truth, by the time the throw was made, Harper was halfway to third base. And if the throw was made to third base, he was a sitting duck, and it's only a double and an out at third, and okay, fine. And no one complains. Instead, the throw goes home, and you had no shot at Schwarber, and then you end up giving up the triple to Harper. It's a cycle. The rule is fine. I don't think there's a problem here. Mets fans are crying about it. Liv Morgan challenge, and keeps it moving, keeps it pushing. It's not great for you. It's great for all of us who watch, because we as Philly fans enjoyed beating up the Mets, and for the latter 2 nights of that series, the Phillies did as such. The Mets also got cooked twice in Cincinnati in hilarious fashion. It was pretty funny. Nolan McClain aside, they had a disastrous week where they could get nothing done and were seismically destroyed by the Phillies and the Reds for 4 of the other 5 games. And the one they ended up surviving, they only did so because of a bad inning by Jose Alvarado. It was not a good week for the Mets. LA Angels, you're selling, right? You have 3 really good outfielders. Your outfield might actually be left to right the most stable in baseball. And this is saying something because I could also argue this point about the Mets, because the Mets outfield has been tremendous. Ben, Ewing, and Soto, they're really good. And with the Angels, in their case, their outfield's also pretty solid. They also handle business in their outfield. Yet, Artie Moreno is super stubborn. Like, you have to rebuild this farm system. You have to rebuild it in some way to give your team hope for the future. Soriano is probably, honestly, the one guy I would say is off limits in your pitching staff. I think that's the way it should be. You've had awful pitching for years. You finally now have a guy who could be an ace. And, okay, I'm not trading him. If I got to trade Adele, cool. If I can move Trout to get a decent prospect haul, I do it now because Mike Trout is back in his bag. You do that. Like, they got to do something, anything, because they're nowhere close to competing in contention. And it feels like he doesn't want to move at any point towards contention, Artie Moreno. Or at least sell the team. Please sell the team or something. Like, anything other than this. Being really bad and then being content with being really bad. Please do something other than this, Artie Moreno. It's no bueno. And the Angels had a typically bad week at different points. They should have won the A series. They ended up splitting, and they lost 2 of 3 in their other series. do something, anything other than this. It's not even mediocrity. You're terrible without a direction, and it's just brutal to watch. I don't like seeing Mike Trout's career continuously wasted. They also lost the Orioles yesterday. The Angels did. They do something, anything other than this. Colorado also beat Skeens. Yeah, that was a weird scenario of Rockies versus Skeens at Coors Field and with the Pirates. And the Rockies got it done, which is kind of weird that we can say positive things about Colorado, but we can't actually do that here. They did win 2 out of 3 against the Pirates over the weekend. They lost 2 out of 3 in Chicago, so that scenario evens out with the Cubs. And also, with the Skeens game, they win 2-1, so a 2-1 game at Coors Field. Weird. True, though. Also, the inside the park home run to start the game was also quite nice for the Rockies. That was also pretty fun. Still, the Rockies are indeed the worst team in baseball when it comes to their record, but they're going to have an all-star in Hunter Goodman. They're going to have Mickey Moniak, who's on the board as an alternate, I would argue, because he's had a good first half. And they also have a pitcher with 8 wins, which is very different to say, because the Rockies don't normally do that, but they actually have someone that can do that, which is quite wild. Wild but true. That they have by the name of Tomoyuki Sugano, who's 36 years old and is 8-4, and he might be their best pitcher. Yeah, kind of weird. He's leading their team in ERA with a 4.3. It's not great, but it's in Colorado, so I guess we'll have to go with it. Houston somehow swept Tigers. The Astros continue to be actually pretty good over the last, I would say, month or so. They've looked better. Hunter Brown is now back from his IL stint. Okay, good. The Astros might be somewhat decent down the stretch. It's just, I think they might have dug themselves way too big of a hole to possibly come out of it. And this is with Yordan Alvarez, who on an average team is probably your AL MVP with the way he's been absolutely dominating amongst leaders in average, and the bombs are there, and then the RBI's obviously there. Yordan Alvarez has been an absolute machine thus far this season. But unfortunately, there's just not much else there otherwise. They don't even have a guy to qualify for ERA. And that's probably for the best, because let's face it, most ERAs that would be anywhere close to qualifying are pretty terrible. I do wonder about Josh Hader, though. Will he be traded within the next 6 weeks? I do want to know how that's going to go down for Hader. And Hunter Brown, how well will he continue to get better now that he's back from injury? So these would be things I'll be looking for when it comes to this Astros team down the stretch. I don't look for them to really make a run towards the playoffs. I just think the hole is too deep. Other than that, I guess we'll see and how many bombs that Yordan can hit, because he probably hits about 50, I would say, and probably more than that. He's already halfway there. And Kansas City won Missouri round. Yes, the Cardinals and the Royals, I should say, are 3 up, 3 down. And in this case, it was the Royals who won the series at home, evening things up 3 apiece. And the last game was actually pretty entertaining. 22 runs were combined scored, and unfortunately for the Royals, they scored 10 of the 22. That's not great if you know your math. Then the Cardinals won. Anyway, the Royals did get 2 of 3. And in Kansas City's case, it was a mixed bag week, as most weeks are in baseball lately, where they did win 2 of 3 there, but they went to D.C. and their offense just couldn't keep up for 2 of the 3 games. They lose 2 of 3 there. Okay, fine, that happens. They also did beat Tampa Bay yesterday, which is a good win to start the week against a Rays team that I've talked about for the last few weeks have had their problems. And Kansas City, good on you for getting a dub there. Again, like the teams in this tier, it just seems like the hole is a little too deep for you to get out of. It's a shame, too, because we all like seeing Bobby Witt do Bobby Witt things. And he's continuing to do those things. We're going to go to the UK Pacer Monkey's Paw tier. Cincinnati ruled New York. 3 games against the Mets at home, 3 against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. The Reds won 4 of 6. Very impressive stuff. They took care of business, and they made an early statement with the Gino Suarez masterclass of a performance, hitting 2 bombs, one of them being a grand slam, and making the Mets look terrible for the first 2 games of that series. Now, sure, they did get clamped up by Nolan McLean. McLean's capable of doing that to a lot of teams. Okay, cool. But then you go to Yankee Stadium, and it's like, okay, the Yankees are really good, well, the Mets are terrible. All right, how do you measure up against the Yankees? The answer? Not bad. They did their thing against New York. Well, the Yankees version. And they won 2 out of 3 there as well. Very impressive stuff. And doing all this without Elly De La Cruz, who's trying to work his way back from his injuries and his hammy. We'll see when he returns, and if he can help the Reds get back to the really productive play that they've had since the start of the year up until the De La Cruz injury. Chase Burns has had an excellent year, and the wild thing is he will probably finish like 4th or 5th in the NL Cy Young of voting, because that's how nasty the NL rotation is. If you wanted to put the All-Star team together right now, he's going to probably be like 4th or 5th in it, and it's just gross how good NL pitching is when it comes to the aces. Baltimore, middle of freeway. The Orioles, to their credit, did win 2 of 3 against the defending champion Dodgers. Good work. Very good work here. They also, while they're out in Los Angeles, they're going to play the Angels 2 of 3, and they've already won the first one. So, all right, 3 out of 4 in the middle of LA. Very good stuff. Now, in Seattle, things didn't go quite as well, where their pitching was actually halfway decent. 3 was the magic number for Seattle. Unfortunately for Baltimore, they only scored more than 1 once. They scored 5 in the middle game. They got shut out in one game, and they only scored 1 in the first game, which is not great, obviously, for the Orioles offense. Still, it's been a good LA version of this West Coast swing for Baltimore. Let's see if Baltimore can win another series and try to get a little bit more momentum as we get into July, or closer to July for that matter. Pittsburgh, Thanos level balance. What do I mean by this? Well, the Pirates are very, very mid. Their record is exactly 39 up and 39 down. How balanced are they, you ask? Well, they're 20-19 at home. I think you can guess what their road record is based off the information I just gave you. And part of that road record, losing 2 of 3 in Colorado, is not great. And too many times over the last month and change, the Pirates have had these instances of lose 2 of 3 wherever they go. For more on this, we can talk about the Sacramento series. Yes, they went back to Sacramento. I kind of wish they would have stayed in Vegas, because the home games for the A's are probably slightly more fun in Vegas, as I would imagine a lot of things are compared to Sacramento. Still, the A's ended up winning 2 of 3 in those games, and in 2 of those 3 games, double-digit runs were scored. The A's scored 11 in the first, gave up 12 in the third. Yeah, that makes sense. Still, the Pirates are your true definition of the very mid. They will now be coming home and seeing Seattle, and I gotta say, crucial run of form to end the month with this Seattle series I mentioned, and the Cincinnati, and then Philly. Also, Paul Skeens is 6-7. I will not do the shrug, but the record kind of concerns me. I expected a little bit more out of his record, and actually expected a little bit more out of the offense that the Pirates had. I thought the offense would be slightly better than this, considering the pieces in play. Washington hates the Phillies, and one of their players last night kind of confirmed as such, as they are kind of not happy with the whole CBP South thing. And yes, that is a thing where Philly fans pull up in Washington and basically take over their Nats Park. And I can attest to this because I've done this before. I went in 2022. It really was a good amount of Phillies fans that pulled up to Nats Park, and we do kind of flood their stadium quite nicely and quite efficiently. To be fair to the Nats, they did win last night. They did beat the Phillies last night based off of a few bombs and some really questionable managing, I would say, from Don Mattingly in the sense of who he putting in Seth Johnson at that particular time. It was just not a good look. Still, the Nats are kind of just chugging along nicely. They're not out of any race by any means, despite their pitching being so bad in most games. Last night it was decent, but in most games their pitching is kind of rough. They lost 2 out of 3 to Tampa Bay last week, and they also won 2 out of 3 against Kansas City. Still, the Nats are not out of things by a long shot, especially if they can get an ace. Can they get an ace before the deadline? That's, I think, the thing that's going to push them anywhere close to the playoffs. Minnesota, Buxton Power Company. The good news is Byron Buxton has 25 home runs amongst league leaders like the likes of Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Schwarber and a bunch of other dudes. The bad news is the second place guy on his team in terms of bombs only has 12. Therein lies the problem for Minnesota. It's a decent offense. It's fairly well-rounded. They do a lot of things respectably. I wouldn't say well, but they do them respectably enough. The unfortunate part is it just doesn't feel like they have enough. And for years, we talked about Byron Buxton. Are they going to trade him? Are they not? Are they going to trade him? Are they not? But I just don't get the sense that that's going to happen this year. I think Minnesota's in too deep to try to trade Buxton and try to move forward. And more on this home run situation I've referred to, it's Brooks Lee, who's second on the team with 12. And that's not going to cut it. And they only have one other guy, and that's Cody Clemens from Philly, who has 11 home runs and is the only other guy in double figures for Minnesota. Not great there. Still, the Twins are they're okay, but that's all they're going to be. That they just don't have enough horses, I don't think, to make a move forward. They'll have their fun, they'll have their series wins here and there, but that's kind of all they are. Detroit, statement sweep. I've wondered about the Tigers, and I've sometimes been hard on them. I've sometimes been very lenient on them. And in this case, I give them credit. They faced the White Sox, the leaders of the AL Central. They swept the White Sox. Very impressive stuff there. Good work there by the Tigers. They also beat the Yankees and Garrett Cole last night, which was a very impressive performance on that regard. And I do want to say, yes, they did lose 2-3 to Houston. I do have to add that in there. But I like the way Detroit took care of business last week for the majority of it. Good on you, Tigers. Now, where does that leave you? Will that lead you anywhere close to the wild card scenario? Actually, you're not completely dead, but you got to continue to stack 4 in 2 weeks like you just had last week. You got to keep stacking those. And if you do, then okay, fine. You got a shot, especially with Skubal and Framber Valdez when he's pitching like what he did last night, where he was pretty productive against the Yankees. We'll see if they can continue stacking. And Chicago. PCA isn't dull. He's been on a tear lately. He's been absolutely tearing up the baseball when it comes to home runs. He hit that cycle last week and he immediately got picked off after the single. He had a reverse cycle, by the way. He homered, triple, double, and then cycle, and then got the single, and then got picked off, which was absolutely insane. He is not a dull player. He will make some gaffes in the outfield. He will make some electrifying plays in the outfield. He will also hit bombs. And pretty much since that White Sox fan chirped him, like, he has been in his bag over the last few weeks. And it looked like the dominant center fielder that he can be and has shown himself to be. The Cubs in general are not dull. They are an exciting team in the sense of you don't know what you're getting from them. Either their offense is going to mash on you and bang out 10 runs, or their pitching will give up bombs and they give up 10 runs. And somewhere in between, there'll be some mistakes by either squad. They're a really pretty entertaining team to watch and pay attention to. Where does this leave them when it comes to the playoffs? At this point, probably out of them. But at the very least, down the stretch, you won't have a dull moment in Wrigley or wherever else Chicago's going to play. Let's go take the California Zephyr to playoff tier. It's ironic that we're starting in San Diego first. Mid and Midwest. That's kind of where the Padres were. Going 3-3 in Texas and St. Louis, and their offense doing what their offense does, which honestly isn't much. Yeah, that seems about right. I just don't think what can the Padres really even do? I mean, they shed a bunch of payroll over the last few years, and I guess the logical thing would be, okay, go try to buy the deadline. The problem is they use a bunch of their farm system to go get a lot of the guys they got, which obviously includes Mason Miller, who's been amazing. But what do you do if you're San Diego? And you've gone so far in on this all-in push, but have gotten nothing to show for it. Padres, it's a painful situation. They did beat Atlanta last night. It was typical Padres, at least this year. Manny M's hit a home run. Machado, 1-0. That's all it was. That's it. That's all. And at least there's that. So we will appreciate the Padres for that. We as Phillies fans, and most other fan bases probably appreciate Atlanta losing last night. But still, the Padres are just kind of stuck, to be honest. What farm system do you really have to even try to trade for pieces that you need? You're going to need Manny M's to continue to stay high, and then Fernando Tatis to find anything that he was before, well, honestly, the suspension, to be honest. Miami, June, Brady, Giannis. I don't think there's been a better team this month than the Marlins. The way they played, the way they have taken care of the pitching-wise, they have been incredibly impressive this month. and they have mowed down a lot of their opponents. They've won every series that they've had except the Phillies. They played the Phillies last week and got beat in that series. Sure, okay, fine. They did bang 12 out against Andrew Payne or sending him back to AAA. That did happen. But still, they've won every series this month, sans Phillies, and have looked really dominant while doing so. They swept the Giants last week as well. That was part of it. Now, they did lose to Texas yesterday, but I think they'll make that sacrifice. Let's examine why. In a span of 48 hours, the Miami Heat and the Florida Panthers traded for Brady Tkachuk, Panthers first, and giving up several picks, and really made a nice, savvy trade with Seattle to set up the Brady Tkachuk trade, reuniting him with his brother Matthew down in Florida. The Panthers missed the playoffs after 2 straight Stanley Cup wins, and now it's like, okay, we got the Tkachuks, and they're going to have maybe the most terrifying 3 lines in the NHL as a unit. Who's beating that 9-man crew, despite the fact that Sergei Bobrovsky hasn't been signed? That's kind of wild. And then just last night, while some people were sleeping and while other people were doing stuff, watching the World Cup and whatnot, they ended up trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo and giving up several draft picks and a lot of their depth. Okay, sure. But you got a top 5 player and a generational talent, so I think you take those. So now we're living in a world where not even 3 days ago, we didn't know what the Panthers could do. We assumed the Panthers would be back to Stanley Cup contenders, and then, okay, let's see what you got. And then the Miami Heat will be stuck in purgatory, which in the NBA is mediocrity. Now, all of a sudden, people are going to probably say the Heat are dark horse title contenders, and the Panthers are terrifying. Yeah, how things could change. You know what this means to me, though? This probably means the Hurricanes and Dolphins are going to both be rough this next season. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them. A soul for a soul. That's how it always works. Toronto, successful history tour. Toronto just went to the 2 oldest ballparks in Major League Baseball, Wrigley Field and Fenway Park, and came out smelling like roses, to be honest. They won 5 of 6 and then looked very impressive in said wins. Good on you. They swept the Red Sox. Good stuff there by Toronto to get that done. And they go to Wrigley and they take care of business there with actually they won. They split with the Cubs. They didn't win 5 of 6. They won 4 of 5. They got blasted in one of their games. They won the second one. The third one was rained out. They'll figure that out. So 4 of 5, still a successful history tour. You take those. If you're the Blue Jays and you need to make up ground in the AL East and or wild card to try to defend your AL pennant, you take those as much and as frequently as you can get them. They have won 5 of 6, I will say that, because they did beat the Astros yesterday when they get back to Canadian soil. Good on you. They got the Texas 2-step, if you will, coming in because both Texas teams are coming in for 6 more games. 2 more from Houston, 4 from Texas. We'll see if they can continue this run of form and inch their way back into the playoff contention. As Toronto gets healthy, I would imagine they're going to be a respectable force coming down the stretch. Arizona, good at home. That's probably the best thing I can say about the Diamondbacks right now. They're not a bad team. Obviously, Corbin Carroll's been handling his lately. And the Diamondbacks as a whole look pretty solid. It's just at home versus on the road, they feel like 2 entirely different teams. They ended up, believe it or not, losing 2 of 3 to Minnesota at home, but winning 2 of 3 against the Angels, well, you're supposed to do that. And they're keeping things moving, at least on that realm. On the road, they're kind of meh. And for more on this, they went to St. Louis yesterday and lost. They got 2 more there this week, or 3 more there, I should say, and then they got 3 against Tampa Bay. So this is actually a pretty crucial week for an Arizona team that could use some momentum here as they try to get towards the end of the month. We'll see what Arizona can do with it. And I do wonder, will they start selling like they did last year, where last year they sold and they almost made the playoffs anyway. See if Arizona will have that same success. Their brothers in Tampa Bay, Payne in LA. This was not a good week for the Rays. Like, I keep waiting for the Rays to turn around, to make a jump, to do something different, anything to kind of get back. Yet somehow they still have the 5th best record in baseball. That's how well they started. They started out so dominantly well. They're amazing at home, though. They're 26-11 at home, which I do believe is the best record in baseball when it comes to your home games. And their road record is kind of mid, but a lot of this damage was done before the last month or so, where they had been scuffling, to say the least. For more on this, they lost to Kansas City last night. They did look good against the Nats, fine. But it's the LA part where I should mention here. they had 3 games against the Dodgers. They lost all 3 of them by 1 run apiece. Oof. Shohei Ohtani homered in the second game, and that was the 1 run in question. Freddie Freeman doing clutch things in one of these games as well. It was Miguel Rojas with a pinch hit home run that won the first game. It was just a brutal run of form where all they had to do, Tampa Bay, you basically lost this series. It got swept in this series by the Dodgers based off 3 pitches. That's effectively how they lost. And they could have either won 2 of 3 or even swept had they not made those 3 pitches and those 3 mistakes to Miguel Rojas and then Shohei Ohtani and then Freddie Freeman. That's how brutal this was for Tampa Bay. A Rays team that is still very good. It's just they haven't been able to sustain momentum since, I would say, mid-May. They're a little concerned about this. Seattle, Beltway mediocrity. The Mariners kind of got stuck in the middle of traffic, which tends to happen between Baltimore and D.C. a lot. I've seen it. It's quite a thing. And they played both the Beltway teams over the week, and they went 3-3. As most teams tend to do over the last few weeks or so. They're just kind of sort of mid and win some, lose some, 3-3. It kind of happens. The 3 being the magic number in the Orioles series. They scored 3 in all 3 games. They won 2 of them. Good stuff. But then they played the Nationals and they in this time period, and they ended up winning the first game. They ended up scoring a 10-piece. They gave up a 10-piece in the third game. It was the second game that was different, and they ended up losing that game, unfortunately, and it was not great for them. Over the weekend as well, losing 2 of 3 to Boston, I don't recommend that. That's not great. I don't recommend that at all. So you could argue this zero-sum week, still 3-3. I guess that was a thing. They almost got no hit in the first game. It was quite wild. Still, scoring 3 runs exactly in 4 of the 6 games, and not scoring any more than that in any time this week is just wild, to be honest. That Seattle's maximum runs were 3. Now we'll see how they'll do against Pittsburgh, and they don't have to deal with Skeens, which is generally good, even though the Pirates pitching is also generally fine. Can the Mariners continue to keep afloat in the American League West? I would like to think so, but I guess we'll see. Cleveland, even with Chicago. Yes, the Guardians have tracked the White Sox down. Good on you for doing so, Cleveland. They are percentage points behind, but still, good on you. And guess who's their opponent this week, in this series right now? It is said White Sox. They've got 2 more in Chicago. Chicago won yesterday. Meanwhile, the Guardians, what did they do last week? Well, they lose 2 of 3 in Houston. They also lose 2 of 3 to Milwaukee. Milwaukee you can excuse and you kind of understand because the Brewers are great. Houston, it's not as great, though Yordan Alvarez had something to do with some of the damage that was done in that series. The point of it is they are even with Chicago, and that is good. I think you'll take that. The White Sox have 1 less. I played 2 less games, so 40-37. The Guardians 41-38. Still fine though. Still in good shape. Can the Guardians keep up with the White Sox? And more to the point, can they claim the lead as we continue the last full week of June? I guess time will tell, and we'll know in the next, 36 to 48 hours. Speaking of the White Sox, they're next. A brutal week. That's kind of what happened here. I mentioned the Tiger sweep, which is very impressive on their part. They also, I mentioned that they won yesterday, which was good, fine. They also went to the Bronx. I mentioned a lot of home runs between the Yankees and the Tigers. I expected a lot of bombs being hit by those 2 teams. Well, the Yankees did their part. The White Sox, not as much. They gave up a 12-piece combo, then a 10-piece combo in the first 2 games. Now, their pitching showed up in the third game, and a grand slam separated them in said third game. That's why the White Sox won said game. But still, a 1-5 week, pretty brutal. At least you beat the Guardians. And as long as you're able to beat the Guardians, and if you need to, the Tigers, you're probably going to be fine, even though that Tiger sweep is a little unsettling. We'll see what you do this week against the Guardians and the Royals in a, I would say, fairly crucial homestand before going to Baltimore to end the month. And now let's go to the VSOE title tier. Texas, decent weekend, which is probably the best thing I could say about this Texas run of form, at least last week, where they held it together for the weekend. They won 2 of 3 against the Padres. Okay, cool, that's fine. Getting swept by the Twins, not ideal. not an ideal situation there at all. They're not great. And they scored a combined 7 runs in that Twin series. They then promptly scored 9 runs against the Padres. Go figure. Anyway, the point of it is they went and faced the Marlins, who've been the hottest team in the game, and actually beat them last night. Let's see if they can beat them again and win the series and be the second team this month to do that against Miami. Still, the pitching, I still trust it. I trust it a bunch. I think that they're going to be able to hold it down. I wonder if they can go get a bat at the deadline. If so, they've got a real shot. If not, I just don't know where they're going to get their offense from. Wyatt Langford I do like, though. I do like some of the guys individually, and maybe they'll have to hold it together a little bit stronger without Corey Seager. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to hold it consistently, Seager or not, down the stretch. Sacramento, Vegas. Exciting home team. I'm not sure there's a team that's more fun to watch at home than these guys. Whether that home is Sacramento, whether that home is Vegas. Both ballparks seem to have higher altitudes. Vegas definitely does. And ball go boom. And balls go far. I think John Fisher knew what he was doing when it came to this building of the ballpark in Vegas, if that roof is going to be open. The ball will go boom and far, and runs will be scored. They've got a real offense, obviously, in theory, at least at home. Such a good home field advantage, I guess you could say. On the road, offense will travel occasionally, it seems. They had another fun 7 games, you could argue, at home. They split with the Angels, which I don't necessarily recommend. And then they won 2-3 with Pittsburgh, as I mentioned previously. So cool, 4-3, fine. And you're still really in shouting distance, obviously, with the Mariners, and who are in first place, and the Rangers in third. Believe it or not, the Astros, as much as I keep saying, oh, does Houston have enough? As much as I say this, the Astros are only 3.5 out. Wow, the AL West is terrible. Still, I trust the A's offense. I do. They're pitching. I'm concerned. If it were possible to fuse together the Rangers pitching and the Athletics hitting, then you might have one of the best teams in baseball. And since you can't, you have a mediocre team who's still under 500, but have real bats. Yeah, it's like that, I guess. St. Louis, even in Missouri. Yep, they're 3 up, 3 down against the Kansas City Royals as they handled their Missourian business. Okay, cool, fine. The Cardinals do, like a pretty solid wild card contender. They did beat Arizona yesterday. Good on you for that victory. They also won 2-3 against the Padres last week. And their guys are playing really well. They've looked very productive in many ways. Jordan Walker, as I mentioned before. JJ Weatherholt has been an absolute monster lately, too. He's looking like he could be Rookie of the Year because he has been absolutely cooking in the National League. He has looked very impressive. The baby devil magic that the Cardinals are bringing, Burleson's also played well. This is looking like a legitimately good squad for the present and the future. Sure, they will be tested, no question. But I like what I'm seeing from a Cardinals team that no one saw coming, I would honestly say. And they look like a very solid team. Are they on the level of Dodgers, Braves, Brewers? No. But they're on the second tier, which for a team that I think a lot of us thought would be one of the worst in baseball, you take that every day. Very impressive, St. Louis. New York Yankees, Randall for nothing. So the Yankees I've mentioned with the various other teams here, they did well against the White Sox. Very good 2 out of 3 win. They lose 2-3 to the Reds without Elly De La Cruz, which I don't recommend, but it happened. Okay, it happens. Still, though, not bad. They also went to Detroit yesterday, and Garrett Cole got kind of beaten up a little bit. Not great. Alas, this was not about that. Sacrifices had to be made. They got Julius Randle for nothing. I guess you take that. For a Nets team with no real direction and no real lane to a star unless they get lucky in the draft tonight, they got Julius Randle, and okay, cool. Now, there's going to be a lot of ISO stuff between him and Michael Porter, but they got a pretty solid player in Randle. He's obviously been an all-star several times, is generally a good player, despite the bad rap he gets. I like the trade, I guess, for Brooklyn because you couldn't do much worse. And you have now pretty good forward combination in Porter and Randle. Okay, cool. All you gave up was Nick Claxton, and okay, you roll with that. Okay, you can live with that. You may be able to get a center tonight with their pick. Cool. Or try to get a guard who can put the ball in the hoop. That would also be nice and is okay with passing. That would generally be good. Still, the Yankees are going to be fine. Getting back to them, they're going to be fine. They should be okay with the rest of this Tiger series. We'll see what goes down there. And going forward, ideally, the Yankees are going to be okay for their sake. Philadelphia, Harper and Schwarber. Against the Mets, they effectively looked like Shaq and Kobe on Saturday and Sunday. They were completely unstoppable. You could not pitch to them. And somehow, unfortunately, the Mets decided to pitch to them. Never getting away with an enemy when they're making mistakes. Take Saturday, for example. Harper and Schwarber made history. They became the second duo to actually hit, where one of them hits a cycle, and it was a cycle, and the other one hits 3 home runs in a game. It was quite amazing stuff to happen here. And it would be since Tony Lazzari and Lou Gehrig. This happened on June 3rd, 1932. Absolutely insane. Gehrig hit 4 home runs in this game, by the way. This was a dominant performance. And then how did they follow it up? Well, on Sunday, Harper only became a triple shy of the cycle again. And then Kyle Schwarber also tried to hit a ball to the moon. He had to settle for hitting it into the upper deck for the third time for his third home run in 4 days that went into the upper tank in right field. It was quite wild. On a very, very relevant side note, Hoagie Fest is back at Wawa. I am not sponsored by Wawa. At least not yet. Their Hoagies are really good, though. Still, this was a very dominant weekend for the Phillies. And as we learned very clearly, when it's Wheeler, Luzardo, or Christopher Sanchez, the Phillies are near unbeatable. When anyone else is pitching, it's concerning. Spoiler alert, neither of those 3 guys I just mentioned pitched last night for the Phillies, and they lost in D.C. You see where I'm going with this. Milwaukee, brutal Atlanta losses. Yeah, the Brewers lost 2 out of 3 in Atlanta in what was a very big-time series, and both losses were very avoidable. So here's how it went down. Mizorowski did not light up the Braves like he did the Phillies this past Friday night, but it came down to the 9th inning, as most Brewers games seem to do, at different points. So everything was looking good. Jackson Chourio gets a base hit, drives it an RBI. Things are cool. Milwaukee's down 2 at this point. And then the tying run gets thrown out at home, and that's effectively ended the game because the Braves got the last out shortly after, and it was GG's. And then Saturday happens. Everything's looking good. Milwaukee's got the lead, 2-1, or actually 3-2 in the 9th inning. Everything's looking clean. And then Ozzy Albies, he hits the ball, Apple Taco, 2-run walk-off, blouses. He hit 2 home runs on this day, and the Brewers lose to Atlanta in a game that was completely avoidable. And that was actually Aaron Ashby's first loss of the year. He's 10-1. He's going to go to the All-Star game. He's 10-1, and he's been amazing. He's got 10 wins, which is wild. Still, out the pen, by the way. It was just a heartbreaking loss for Milwaukee, and a very avoidable one, to be honest, as long as they just had to hold it together for a couple more outs, and they just couldn't do it. And then Sunday happens, and they absolutely crash out. And it was absolutely insane what the Brewers did in the second inning. Contreras hit a 3-run homer, and Bryce Elder got lit up like a Christmas tree. They gave up 8 runs in the second inning, Atlanta did, and it was an easy Milwaukee win with no stress whatsoever. Atlanta did try to do something in the 9th inning, but the damage was done. It was a wrap. So this was a very avoidable series of events for Milwaukee, where they could have won 2 of 3 and even swept, but they'll just have to settle for only losing 2 of 3 to Atlanta. No shame. It happens to a lot of teams. They did at least win 2 of 3 against the Guardians. I guess you'll take that. And then they will play the Reds, and we'll go from there. They got a crucial series with the Cubs, too, this weekend. So this could be a monster scenario. To end this month, they got a lot of games left with the Reds, and by a lot, I mean 4 of them, and 3 games with the Cubs in between, which will probably feel like road games, despite the fact that these games are in Milwaukee. Now, usually with the soul for a soul thing, this is probably the part. Milwaukee probably wins every game for the rest of the month, and their perceived devil magic will terrorize the Cubs for 3 games, despite the fact that it will probably feel like 3 road games in Milwaukee, despite the fact because of Giannis being traded. That is generally how this works. Again, I don't make the rules when it comes to a soul for a soul. I just enforce them. Atlanta, division lead decreasing. Now, I did just talk about how the Braves faced Milwaukee and won that series. That's why Atlanta jumps Milwaukee in these power rankings. They handle business head-to-head. Cool, fine. They also lost 2 games to the Giants. The 3rd game was rained out, so we can't quite count that. But they lost the series to the Giants at home. I don't recommend that. That's not great. I don't think that's something that people talk about at parties. I don't think people do that. Still, it happened, and it was a very disappointing performance by the Braves in that regard. Now, they also went out to San Diego and Manny Machado homered. That was the only run that was scored last night. That's not great. And the division lead is decreasing. And what looked insurmountable, I would say a week and a half ago, is now only 6.5 ahead of the Phillies for the NL East. Surely the Braves aren't going to blow this division lead, right? And the LA Dodgers, first to 50. From the team that was the first to 40, they went 40-19 to start the year, Atlanta did, to the Dodgers who now are the first to 50. And I think everybody else is not happy about that. Despite LA's perceived problems, despite the Edwin Diaz injury, despite the perceived problems of Mookie Betts and his injury issues, and Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman, like whatever. All the good and the bad that's happened with the Dodgers, the things that are perceived to not go right, it doesn't seem to matter. They have an armada that all seems to click at different points, and there's really no easy out anywhere in this lineup. There's no easy fix to deal with in this rotation. They're just all very good, all at the same time. And the fact that they're the first to 50 shouldn't shock anyone, to be honest. I guess it's just the simple fact that it took this long for them to get to 50. That's probably the one issue here. Like, okay, cool. They lost 2-3 to Baltimore. That's a statement series for the Orioles. Good on you for that. They swept the Rays, who, like I just mentioned, have the 5th best record in baseball despite their struggles over the last month. That's how good this Dodgers team tends to be. Whatever struggles that they may have, we look at them like, oh, this is sky falling. Is the Dodgers run potentially ending? Then they run off 7 of 10 or something like that, and it's like, oh, okay, these are the Dodgers you expect to see. They'll probably have the NL West wrapped up by mid-September, and it's going to be pain for anyone to deal with and trying to beat them 4 out of 7 or 3 out of 5, depending on when you may see them in the playoffs. Yep, the sky is not falling. Indeed, it is Dodger blue skies. That's what's going on above us now. There you have it. That's this week's Power Rankings. And next Monday or Tuesday will be more of them as we are going to get towards Independence Day. We'll see where everyone is. We're going to be at that point closer to a month and some change from the trade deadline. Will moves be made? Who needs to make them? Well, several teams. I'm looking at pretty much everyone in Zombie Tier and several teams outside of Zombie Tier that need to make moves to buy or sell. Need to see that. The point is, the Eurostar Zombie Tier will be the first stop of my next train of thought.